Flight sponsors 10-year tip with Garry Dibley.
Well, after a mispressed mouse key, good evening. It is a Monday night, it is 9 o'clock, and it is time for Tinning Your Tip with me, Garry Dibley, and the ever-capable co-presenter, that is, Mark. This week I get to grips with my wood once again, and so did nearly some other people, and we are going to be looking at a nice little vid that Mark's doing. I sent him over one of the MadVapes kit in a tin and stuff, so he's going to be looking at that. This week we start on somewhat a serious note. I say serious, it should be very serious, but let me just say, this week I almost needed this for reasons I do not want to go into too much. I think what we're going to be doing is we will be discussing my weekend at some point on VT Talk, but what I'm going to do at this present time, he says reaching up and killing something else, I'm going to give you a brief overview. Let's just say, if you are thinking of sending a mod of any description through the postal service, apparently it is most advisable if you do include a description of the device you are sending. Failure to do so could result in that device being part of a let's just say an investigation, one of which you wouldn't really want to be involved in. So a message out really, and I think we will take this further on on VT Talk. Just be careful when you're sending stuff, and where you're sending it to is probably the key word, or you may well need the Vaseline. So yes, we will go into that in more detail at some point. This week, as I say, we're going to be going through the usual thing, the usual mods, this, that, and the other. It is going to be quite tight. I have literally just started a thread on our forum, the Vapor Trails forum, for the Stunty auction. And this week is where it all starts. And to mark that occasion, I have put together a nice, I say nice, I don't know, I put together a little montage of Stunty goodness, and a way of me saying goodbye to Stunty. And it did, it did tear on the heartstrings. So I hope when we come to that point, you're feeling me. I need you to feel me. Probably good to rephrase that. Probably good to just move on rather rapidly. I'm going to go into our first little vid. I'll come back and see you after these. And we're back again for another week with, I would love to say I'm loving this wood, but I'm starting to hate this wood with a passion, you could say. Yes, not liking the wood, but needless to say, we will continue. And this is one of those moments where you think to yourself, why the hell did I even suggest we start this thing? What we're going to do is we're going to start off by running. Let me just pop out. I'm on the messy on the messy bench this week because I'm involving putty, which I don't want to do. I've got a little battery doodah, what's it, jobby here, which I'm going to be snipping back to make our bottom end connector, as it were, down in there. So I'm simply, to start with, I'm just going to use some snips. You can cut them, you can do what you want with them, but I always do that, cut them with the snips, damn sight quicker. And then I'll take off some of the edges with a file. He says if he had one to hand, which he does down here somewhere. So really I'm just knocking back a few of these edges. There may not be a need, let me have a look. That's going to sit in there quite nicely as it is. It's going to be a bugger to get down in there, but we've got to try and get that laid, so see that down in there anyway, with our wire coming up. Now I need to have a look. Our battery's going to sit actually with that in place. because one thing I haven't checked as yet is how high the battery is going to sit. Not be too bad. Not going to be too bad. I'm going to be using nippleless batteries anyway in here. Put my bag on. Like I say, this is becoming a pain. Oh, I've discovered the 306 with a nice little cyan mods dippy thing, and a few, look, we have the drip shield that you can put your own drip tip in. Again, all cyan mod stuff, and we have the Canon E Type 1, and we have this Canon E Type 1, and yes, we've gone, look, and one for the IO6, and another one there for the, so we've got 306 and IO6 in either one, and this one here you can stick your own Judo jobby on. So lots of cyan tips and everything. It's all exciting. Anyway, back to the mod. I must say big thank you to Daz over at Safer Cigs and to Lee over at MadVapes. The one thing I have noticed, I'm going to do this very quickly before we carry on, I'm not going to waffle. Look, I've got one of the little mini batteries. They're tiny. Got a little end cappy thing on it. Put that on there. That is so sweet. A little mini 3060 thing. Don't it look good? Hey? Anyway. That's a bit dry. But yeah, that works really well on there. Right, so what I'm going to do, we've got to make a lead up anyway. And what I'm going to do on the top of there is we need to solder on a wire. So I've got a chunk here that I think will serve the purpose. The way that I do these, when I do it, I don't necessarily want it to come off the back, because it's going to raise it up ever so slightly. So I'm just going to take it off a little tab there. So I need to get some solder down on there to start with. Small bit in the corner. I just need to tin up my wire. And the reason I haven't stranded it, or when I say I've left it in strands, the reason for that, and the way that I like to do it, when I stick this on the edge, I can stick that on top of that solder and I can press that down and splay out the individual strands. So I'm not adding to the height. So when I stick my battery on top of there, this shouldn't interrupt it. Now what I need to do is obviously drop that down inside this mod, and get my pos pin running out for the ATI. So that will effectively run through there. I need to adjust that wire so it all sits nice and flush down in there, and it should be happy days. What I've got to do, I've got to go and mix up some epoxy, because I'm going to be dropping these in with epoxy, and I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll come back to you. But effectively I'm going to be epoxying in my magnets, epoxying in me ring, and all that sort of stuff, and then we should be in a position where we're effectively connecting up our ATI, and then we'll come back to the top button. For this epoxying I'm going to be using one that actually is a separate hardener and resin, purely because I want to add a little bit more. With those you can sort of play around with your mix, so you can add a dab more hardener if you need, or if you feel you want to. I'm going to go away, get these epoxied, I'll pop back and we'll see how we got on. I may well be glued to the bench.
Right then, today Garry sent me up, very kindly sent me this MadVapes kit from Liberty Flights, so I thought I'll have a go with this. And when he sent it up to me, he also sent this nice little tin, so I thought I can possibly shoehorn in a twin 18650 with this, but we shall see, because it's rather small, not a lot of room to work with. But this Liberty Flights kit, MadVapes kit I should say, is incredibly tiny. I don't think it does it justice, just how small this stuff is when you see it on camera. But to give you a rough size comparison, there's something that you should be familiar with. 20p piece, and it's almost completely covered by the 20p piece. That's how small the thing is. So this is going to be fun. So let's start off, I think, by doing the resistors first. I think I'll do them through the back rather than the front, just to be different and keep them out of the way for myself. So that's one of them in. I think this is going to take some precision soldering on my part, because I don't even know if you can see it on the camera. Tip cleaned up a bit. And I'm just going to small amount of tinning on there. And luckily I'm using fine solder, so it makes life a little bit easier. And it's so small I can barely even see what I'm doing. But that's a good solder joint there. I really need to hold this in something now. So I should put one there. And once again, just tin up the very end. I think God. I think I should have a magnifying glass out for this. Oh, that's a good solder joint. So, same with the other one. Let's put the legs through the holes. Actually, I better cut them off before I do that. Cutting thing. Yeah. Scissors will do a thing for this. Just trim them off as close to the board as I can get. And now pop the other one through. And then these flush with the board so they won't get in the way of anything later on. And just hold them like this. Now, really hope you can see what I'm actually doing here. Because I can't. Pin have two joints there. So again, I'll just trim these off as I go. And that's looking pretty good there. So now, let's tin up the connectors first. Really gotta get the tiniest amount of solder in here I possibly can. Because there's not a great deal of room between these different connectors.
And there we go, back to the ugly mug once again. So yes, as you can see, Mark is starting his adventure with the MadVapes mod kit that we got via Liberty Flights, who do sponsor our show. So it's very nice to show, you know, something from those guys for a change. So yes, as I'm sure you were sort of, you may well have been discussing, I can't see chat tonight because my microphone is blocked out. So you can say whatever, you know, my mic is blocking the chat, so you can say what you want. But essentially, to give you a brief update before we sort of move this on, I've come to the conclusion that if you are selling mods and shipping mods, you need to be very specific as to where they're actually going. In this particular case, my mod was going to a forwarding company and it was going to another country. It was when that mod was unpacked that it started a bit of a scare, shall we say, and yes, we had to spend lots of time explaining components and all that sort of stuff. So we are going to potentially talk about this in VT Talk, and hopefully Dave will have me along where I can give you the full story. I've told the guys today who I was speaking to that potentially we may talk about this. I told them on Saturday as well, and I think the biggest concern is that you know, people that are sending stuff like this through the post and indeed tube mods and stuff like that, there is very little understanding as to what they are. So we do need to, if you like, think about maybe taking precautions when we send them. With all that said, I'm going to go into our first little web break and I will see you back after this.
iVapor and iVapor Elixir, based in Yorkshire, for your e-cig needs. That's ivapor.co.uk and ivapor-elixir.co.uk. iVapor and ivapor-elixir.co.uk are proud sponsors of vaportrails.tv.
So there we go, we are back in the room once again. And I must confess, I'm working on this wood mod at the moment, and I am finding it an absolute pain in the bottom, which hopefully will be portrayed in my next little videos. Now, you must remember that you know, the first little video that we see was prior to the call that I received, which was from, you know, the authorities I didn't really want to be messing with. And it may well have got a little bit nervy after this, so if the hands are shaking, please excuse me. Okay, and we are back. I've been getting nowhere fast this morning. Lots of interruptions, but we have finally epoxied. I have my ring epoxied in. I've got my two retaining magnets that are going to be going on there, and I've epoxied in our, if you like, our activation ring, we're going to call it. So I'm now looking at how potentially we're going to construct the switch to fire this. Obviously, when our battery is inserted inside there, our atomizer connection's going on there, we need to switch this, and as we said before, the switch activation is going to be by this ring going down and making contact inside here. Looking at this now, I'm not too convinced whether this is going to work exactly how I want it to. I may have to rethink this switch, but what I'm sort of thinking at the moment, as I said, we did have this, it's got to get it right. You can never get it right. Why can't I get it right? I think that was it. So that's going to be going through there like that. So what I'm sort of thinking is, that's got to press down. Okay, yes. What I'm going to do, sorry, he's thinking on his feet again. It's never good when he does that. So let me just show you what we got. This is a spring from an old lava tube, which probably isn't the best, but it, I think, is going to serve a purpose. This two-part bit here obviously comes apart, and as I said before, this is a, if you like, a ring from a old plumbing end or something like that. If I drop that spring just down inside there, I should be able to fix around that ring. So that spring is going to be like so on the outside, which will compress against the battery, which will push that clear of it. He says, I'm struggling to get that in shot today. I'm all a quiver today, shall we say. Shocking news. Thought I was going to have to get my Vaseline out. What I'm going to do is drop a small bead of solder down inside here. I've got to adjust the wrench to take this so I can hold it nice and tight, and that's looking good round about there. So that's now in the stunt wrench, down in there like that. So what I'm going to be doing, he says, look, camera's all over the shot today. I'm just going to be dropping a small bit of solder just on the inside of there. Apart from his soldering iron's off. Silly boy. Silly, silly, silly boy. Hopefully this is going to heat up relatively quickly. And while that's heating up, what can we talk about? I don't know. Nothing. I'm going to heat the soldering iron up. I'll come back. That's it. So we're hot now. We're steaming. What I'm going to do, as I say, is drop a tiny bit of solder down and try and get it on the inside. It's going to be a pain in the bum. Around the inside of this ring. I need to come up a bit because I can't see what the hell I'm doing down there, to be honest with you, because it's hard soldering in something like this. But I'm going to get a couple of blobs around the inside. that was going to give me some, if you like, fixing points. And I've found with this, you've got to get it quite hot for it to take in these. So I have, if you like, a couple of blobs of solder around in the inside of there. That's going to be hot, and it is. And now I'm just going to put a bead of solder around the top of this spring. That was a blob, that wasn't a bead. I'm just effectively trying to tin up the top of this spring. Letting them cool down. Go back in the grip with this one while it's still steaming on. I might have to balance that on top of there somehow. Oh look, he's doing this all arse about face. Drop my spring down inside now and position it up roughly where I want it to be over these solder blobs. And then I'm going to have to start working this in with the iron. Heating it up and pushing the spring through. This is going to be an absolute pain in the bum. I'll tell you why it's going to be a pain in the bum, because I've got a big blob of bleeding solder there I don't need. It had blobbed slightly. There you go. Like I say, this is going to be fiddly to get this done. I'm going to try doing it and getting it attached in one point first. Oh, you bugger. This is one of those moments where I need something slightly different to what I'm used to working with. You can probably see from there. I'm going to take this out, because I'm going to need to grip the middle of this, I think, and hold that in place while I solder. And you probably just got a view of a hand. If you have, I apologise. Maybe this won't work. I'll come back in two.
I'm just trying to get somewhere on these to work with. So when I put them together, it should solder easier. I think I've just made a complete mess of that. Well, I can see from my brief time with this, it's going to be an awkward board to solder, but because it's so incredibly small, it will make it so much easier to fit into a really small box. In this case, a box with very little room. So I want this to be on the side. So hopefully I'm planning when I put this in, I'll put it in that direction. Hopefully I'll be able to drill a hole through for this. I think it'll be a 9mm hole. And this should just pop through, so you can adjust it from the outside. Hopefully. So let's get this soldered up. Now hopefully with the resistors in and the chip in, the rest should be a lot easier to work with. Those were the two difficult parts, I think. As these bits are a fair bit bigger. Well, relatively speaking at least. Oh, that's three. I'm sorry. That should be 3 good joints on there now. So, all that needs to go in now is the wires. But that can wait. Next, I've got my battery connectors, or holders, I should say. And as you may have noticed in other videos, I really can't stand these because they grip the battery so tightly in here you can never get the thing back out. And even when you've got it in, they hold it in so much that it overpowers the spring. So if the battery's down this end like that with the spring compressed, it won't force it back up so it makes contact here, so you have to adjust it manually. But we shall get rid of that by cutting all these bits off. Simple. So it should just be a matter of running the knife down. Make sure the body parts are one out of the way before you try and press on it. And now, to measure up and show you how little room we're going to have in here. I'm going to have one of these right up against this side like that, and the other one is going to sit right up against this side. And in between the two, we have an atomizer connector coming down, and that is pop that into there. You shall see. But as you can tell, there's not a lot of room, and I've still got to get a switch in there somewhere as well. This is going to be, well, tight would be the right word. Now, one thing I need to do is take off one of these wires, because these are going to be running in series, so I'm going to be connecting from one box to the other. I'm going to take this positive wire off and solder this one straight onto it. So hopefully it should come off fairly easily. There we go. Rid of one wire. Now, get the negative from this one through, making sure it goes off. Wire to reach through. I reckon about there. Strip off the end of the wire. Tin up the tip. And tin up the wire. That should be fine locked. So I'll pop it back through the hole. It should just be a matter of touching the soldering into the two bits.
And there we go. So yes, Mark is making very nice progress with his MadVapes tin. Now, this is the bit where I pay homage, I pay my respects, I bleed my heart out for Stunty. Now, you know, you may want to look away. You know, this is time to get the Kleenex ready. I do well and truly believe that. But yes, after this show, we will be starting the auction for Stunty for children in need. And I've thought long and hard about this, and I thought, what can we do? Well, it's not just going to be Stunty. I have assembled my tools from the very early Tin Your Tip videos, which, believe it or not, is coming up for a year in January the 18th, I believe. It'll be a year with the guys, and most enjoyable it's been. So I am going to be putting together a box of, let's call it, historic VTTV Tin Your Tip tools. It will be my first soldering iron that I used on the show. It will be my pliers. It will be Stunty. It will come in a box that is, let me see if I can get this. It might be noisy. One of them. So it's all going to come in there. Obviously, it is all for children in need. I don't expect it to raise an awful lot, but this is what we're doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, I shall now introduce you to a final, and I promise it will be the final, Stunty video that we're going to do. And after this, I'm going to pop into the ads. See you in a bit. I had a tool, I kept him in my shed. He come out once a week. Well, he was a star of Tin Your Tip, but now he's getting sold for children in need. Love and tender, love and true. Looked down at Stunty and said, don't worry son, someone will just take your place. Well, I think he must have got the right old ump, 'cause he took a chunk out of me face. Love and tender, love and true. Well, you see,
Liberty Flights sponsors 10-Year Tip with Gary Dibley. Sponsored by Liberty Flights.
So there we go. I won't say our final departure of Stunty, but next week hopefully we're going to run the auction for a week. All proceeds will be going to children in need, and I will be asking you to donate directly to the Just Giving page that's been sent up for that. If you are lucky enough to win not only Stunty but a fine selection of mods that were used during the early years. So a bit of history in there, so there we go. I might play that again next week, but we're looking probably to end this on the show next week, which will give me something else to waffle about. I don't mind, unless I am otherwise engaged, we say. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into our last little bits of our videos now. See how we go for time. I'll probably pop back after these three. Right, I've finally managed to get the spring soldered in there. Fiddly little bugger, to be honest with you. But hopefully that is, if you like, then my spring portion. Let's move this out of the way. That's then going to be my spring portion that's soldered in there, and that will give me, if you like, the depression down on the switch. Now it's quite, I don't know how that's going to hold out. I don't know how much pressure. I mean, it's quite a tight spring, but I do want that to be held off the battery, so I can imagine it's going to be quite a firm press to get this to activate. Obviously you can use a different spring, probably find a different way of attaching it. Now, as I said, this is our screw thread, and that will literally go in the top, completing, if you like, our sprung portion of the switch. And because this is a screw thread, effectively when that is through our bottom portion here, we can wind that up, wind it down to, you know, see how high we want that to sit. I mean, I'm just going to play with it for the minute and see what happens. So with the battery in, first time we tried it, put our switch through. Now magnets are going to go on there, and that will keep that portion off. So as you can see, when that is in there, and I press that down, that's going to be making me contact. Now the one thing I should try, and this is where this might go out the window, I'm going to need my battery in to get a fix. Let me drop back out slightly. What I'm going to do is trim back this wire here, trim it back a bit more. Let me just fetch the multimeter. And yes, it is beep time. And we're going to get the fluke involved. So we're going to put it on our continuity test. A beep for everybody. We haven't had beeps for a while, so Let's have a few more. There you go. I dedicate a beep to everybody in chat. Actually did on it. One more. One more for a latecomer. There you go. So I'm going to stick my switch on the top. I'm going to hold that down. I'm going to try and get one prong. This is going to be funny. One prong holding onto there. One prong onto here. Now I shouldn't have a beep while that's there, but if I press it down, I've got my beep. So you can see that that is holding it off the battery. I don't know if you need me to come down for that, but yeah. So I'm holding one on there. I'm touching the springs, obviously, or the copper, because this is going to be the contact. So I've got nothing there now. When I depress that, he says, there you go, I'm getting my beep when it goes down. But I haven't got this positioned up properly. I'm holding it on. So you can see, no contact, contact, no contact, contact. So that's literally depressing down on that ring. In there. So it sort of works. We've proved it in theory. Obviously the next thing to do is going to be to try and size up these holes on here with this magnet. Now the way that I'm going to do this, let me just take our switch out. So our little switch is working, it's hitting our ring, it's making a contact. Now what that will do is, like I say, that's already in contact with the bottom of this battery. That will send the doofar what's it currently stuff down there to heat our atomizer. I now need to work out which way I want this cap to go on. I probably had that round the wrong way, that's why it wasn't making as much of a contact. So I need to work out which way that's going to sit. I think it's that way. I think it is that way. And I need to mark out where my magnets are going to go in this top cap. So I'm just going to, once I've got this, I'm going to drop a little dab of something liquidy that will wipe off quite easily. Probably some heat-sink compound, a little dab of heat-sink compound in the middle of each one of those. Position it up carefully, push down, and that should give me my centres and my holes for my magnets. Theoretically. I'm going to pop away, I'm going to do that, I'm going to see if I can drill these up, and we'll see if we can actually try and get it sort of working this week. Come back in 5.
Oh, don't touch the hot bit, whatever you do. So, there, we're going to go into here. Atomizer at one end, switch, and the board all the way down. So I think end up something like that. No board. Right the way down there. Switch through and atomizer. So it's all going to fit. Hope it was in shot, I suppose. So there you go. That's roughly the layout I'm going to end up with. Now I'm just going to solder it all together. And figure out where the holes are going to be. Something there. Just get it roughly marked out. Where that switch hole is going to be. It's there. The switch through there. Actually, what I need to do, need to mark a channel so I know what space I've got to work with. bit better. So now I've got a rough space of where I can work. Get rid of the dust and hairs out there. So again, atomizer on one end and this board down at the other. So I reckon about there. So towards this side. Right. And now we get my new drill out. With a variable speed to make my life so much easier. So drop a pilot hole in there. One. And I want a pilot hole through here. Quite low down to this side, so it's not getting in the way of the lid, hopefully. There. And one more bit here. So that's that out of the way. I'll switch to my usual drill bits. And pray that I've got all these in the right place, of course. Hole there. And this one will be for the variable resistor. Right then, as you'll no doubt be able to tell from this, I've drilled that hole in completely the wrong place. Should have been further towards this side. So, apart from that, switches in, space ready for the atomizer, connect down when I want it. This side is fine, but that battery holder isn't going to fit in there. So, I shall be back next week and we shall see if I've managed to fix it. I'm sure I'll think of something. I have to use brains for once, I think. That could be a struggle, but we'll find out next week.
And there we go. Yes, sorry, just having a little chuckle to myself. Well, yeah, to myself, yes. But sometimes you really do need to see the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. It's quite funny. I would say that. But yes, one day I will reveal my nickname that the team call me. probably on my final show just before I'm sacked. But yes, it has been emotional once again, and straight after the show, get yourself onto our forum, get to the tin your tip section, and the Stunty auction thread will be there. Please spread the word. I would love for it to go to one of our regular viewers. That would be absolutely fantastic if it did. Like I say, don't go stupid with it, guys. I don't expect Stunty to make an absolute fortune, but it'd be nice if we could make some money for children in need in the process. I'm going to be working, just quickly, personal thing, I'm going to talk to some of the vendors. I'm going to be looking, potentially, hopefully, begging for some donations, and you know, maybe next week after we do this, we may do some kind of raffle if I can get some support. So it'd be lovely if there are any vendors out there watching, if you would like to donate something of a small gift towards the Children in Need raffle, that would be most appreciated. With all that said, it is time to say goodnight, and we will see you next week. I will be on Dave's show on Wednesday. Hopefully, sorry, Wednesday. Yes, Tuesday is Vapor Scene. Now I'm going to get kicked by Cax. I'm running over. Lovely. Good to see you again. See you next week, guys. Cheers. Bye bye now.
Liberty Flight sponsors 10-Year Tip with Gary Dibley.